Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a broker-dealer, member FINRA, SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors Incorporated, a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Clear Vista Financial are not affiliated. Discussions in the show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions.
Welcome, everyone, to the Spend Life Well show, where we apply biblical wisdom to your financial life. With me today is Jesse Hamilton, our federal financial advisor in the office.
Hey, everybody. And
of
who
course,
are you?
I am Mark Trice, your host, with the most. No, I'm just your host, Certified Kingdom Advisor Mark Trice. Glad you've chosen to spend a few minutes with us today. Jesse, there's so many different influencers out there on the internet.
I have several that I like to follow.
I don't follow any of them.
A lot of them, some of them are big names, you know, some of those people who start with R and end with AMZ. And so there's tons of big ones out there, faith-based ones, non-faith-based ones. I have options for both. If you want to text me, I'm not going to promote them here.
There's a lot of young people, Gen Z, millennials, that are financial experts.
Very few of them, some of them are smart.
Some of them are smart, but most of them just want to be seen on TikTok.
Yeah, so
we call them finfluencers.
The idea
financial influencers.
of a finfluencer, we tried to put that on Mark's bio yesterday, and he did not approve of it.
Yeah, neither would compliance either. But I'm not one. I don't want to be one. I just want people to be good stewards of the money that God's blessed them with.
Well, today we're talking about how so many of these people have these episodes where they say, here are the signs that you're doing well financially. And I haven't seen one specifically on signs you're doing well financially using biblical wisdom. So that's what we're going to do today.
Because I think a lot of people, the world defines wealth by what you have.
Yes.
And money is not the objective. Money is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
So Jesse, let's talk about it in just, full transparency here. Let's talk about the world's view of money. What does it say to do?
So the first is to fund your lifestyle, live your life.
Yes, I deserve it, right?
Yes. I work hard, play hard, live my life. Step 2 is use debt as much as you need to get there.
Yep, nothing wrong with that.
No. Step 3.
I'm being facetious, folks.
Save some money for the future.
You can't see my facial expressions if you're listening to this. I'm being facetious.
But hello to our YouTube viewers. Hi.
We're influencers.
Part 3 is maybe save some for the future.
Maybe, yeah, because you've got a good lifestyle. You may not have any left over.
Right. And then at the end, maybe if there's anything left over, we'll give a little bit away, if there's some there.
If I'm feeling generous.
Yeah.
That's how the world looks at things. And God's view of money is exactly the opposite, right?
Exactly.
He gives us instruction to give generously. First, the
Number 1.
Top of line of your budget is to give. Number 2 is to save for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And he warns us about misusing debt, so we must use debt prudently.
It doesn't say it's a sin or don't, but it says use it prudently and wisely.
That's right. And then the final thing, what do we do with the money that's left over? We fund our lifestyle.
With the means that we have.
That's so restricted, Jesse. I just don't know if I can do that without borrowing lots of money and spending all my money on things that I want.
Mm-hmm.
But folks, that's what the Bible tells us to do. Give generously, save for the future, use debt prudently.
Yeah, so I have some incorrect list here of ways that we know we're doing well financially. It's not defined by fancy car, big house, being a millionaire by 40, right? Having a higher salary than your friend. That doesn't mean you're doing well necessarily. Your clothes, your watches, jewelry, vacations.
Why do we think this? Because we want to compare ourselves to people.
Exactly. And it surprisingly, it's also not about getting massive stock market returns on your investments.
And most of the people that look on the outside, look like they're wealthy, don't have much money in the stock market.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. But we see all these influencers out there saying, this is how you know you've made it.
Yeah.
You got a fancy car. I drove... What was the one that you were telling me about, the guy who bought a Lamborghini?
Oh, it was a Bugatti. I actually really like this guy, so I'm not trying to dig on him, but he made this decision and his car payment is $8,400 a month, which is...
You should got to be careful about that because I almost did a spit take into the microphone. Wow.
But getting back to the Bible here,
What did Jesus think about what our attitude should be about money?
He thought that our attitude towards money was so important in our lives that he focused nearly a third of his parables on
I think that's 11 or 12 or 13. I can't remember the exact number.
So he knew that this was going to be a challenge for us. But at the same time, Ecclesiastes does say that when God gives someone wealth and possessions, the ability to enjoy them and accept their lot and be happy in their toil, this is a gift from God.
Yeah, God doesn't say we need to be poor.
No.
He says he wants to bless us. He wants us to use the wealth that he's blessed us with wisely and to become good stewards.
Yes. So let's dive into it. This is not the 3 signs. This is just 3 signs that I came up with. And this first one's boring and practical, but I think it's so important. Sign number 1, you have an emergency fund.
And folks, if you're out there dating and looking for a future mate, a husband or a wife, you should ask them if they have an emergency fund.
Yeah, it's a legitimate question.
Because that's a sign that they're on the right path.
Yeah.
Now, if they're driving a Bugatti and can't take you out to dinner, that's not a good sign.
No.
Right. So number 1, you have an emergency fund.
This is cash in the bank, preferably in a high yield or something earning some interest. But so there's a study in June last year, Mark, that from Lending Club, 61% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck.
I hear it. I mean, I've been there myself at some point in my life.
And get this, 50% of Americans earning over $100,000 a year live paycheck to paycheck.
That's crazy because we're funding our lifestyle first.
Yeah.
That's why.
So this just means that you're relying on your next paycheck to meet your essential expenses with little or no money left over.
Okay, so what's the milestone when this sign number 1 that you've made it?
So this is not enough, but the first milestone is $1,000 in savings.
That's just to get started. And the $1,000 in savings will cover most minor emergencies.
Almost everything.
New tire, maybe some basic engine work. Won't replace your transmission, as I found out this summer, but
it'll get you started on some medical problems if you need to get some
That's
care.
right. What's the second milestone there, though?
3 months living expenses.
Okay.
It's a big milestone. So let's just say this is your necessities, your bills, your food, and debt payments. We want to add all those things up and multiply it by 3. So let's just say those add up to 5,000. That means having 15 in the bank. Milestone 3 is really having a fully funded emergency fund. That's 3 to 12 months. Living expenses, this just depends on how stable your income is. Do you have 2 incomes in the house, 1 income in the house? Is it going to be around for a while? Do you have health problems? Things like that.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Sign number 2, you have margin to give. Now, we put giving at the top, but sometimes our expenses were so stretched and our income is so little, there may not be enough to feed the family and still give at the same time. We understand people are in that situation. But 2 Corinthians 9:7 says, each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. Having that margin in our financial lives gives us an opportunity to give on a regular or even random basis.
Yeah, I'm talking about both here. So this is monthly giving that you plan for and having margin left over to say, hey, there's a need right now. I have a little bit more and I can give.
That's right. And that's something that's a sign that you've made it, it's proof that you live within your means. You have control over where and when you spend your money.
That means you budget.
And you're not worried about how you're going to pay your bills next month.
Yeah. This is true for someone who has $100 and someone who has $1 million.
Yeah, and margin is so important, and also leads to financial wellness and really emotional health by having that margin.
Yeah.
What's sign number 3?
So this is what you alluded to, Mark, earlier. You don't signal your wealth.
So I shouldn't buy that Mercedes-Benz CL class, whatever it is. I don't know anything about cars.
Maybe not.
Is it okay to have a Mercedes?
Of course.
Okay. All right.
But Proverbs 13:7 says, one person pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. Another pretends to be poor, yet has great wealth.
So I remember back in high school,
Okay.
we lived in a small town. And what you did on Friday night was you did this loop. You went from the Dairy Queen down around the courthouse back up to the Dairy Queen. Okay.
Okay.
And you if you had a new pickup truck, or even if it was just new to you, you wanted people to do
That's where you go to be seen.
You want to be seen. So are you buying that car just so you'll be seen, that you'll be giving the signal that, quote, you've made it?
Mm-hmm.
What's your rationale? What's your reasoning behind buying that car? There's nothing wrong with buying a nice car. I've had nice cars. I often tend to prefer kind of modest cars because I beat them up a lot.
Yeah.
But, there's nothing wrong with doing that. What's your reason? And only you, your heart, and between you and God know why you're buying that car for that purpose.
But you're doing well from a spiritual perspective on money if you're not trying to signal that.
Yeah, if you don't care what your car looks like, okay, that's fine.
You ever
if
heard
you
of
want a nice car, great, that's fine too, but make sure you're right with God.
You ever heard of The Millionaire Next Door?
Oh yeah, it's a good book.
So that's the concept of someone who looks maybe like not poor, but they look less showy. But in reality, they have a liquid net worth over $1 million.
Yeah, there was a guy when I was growing up too. He drove a late 1950s Chevy flare side pickup.
Okay.
Lived in the same house he was born in, wore overalls all around town, and you're thinking, this guy's just dirt poor.
Right.
He died several years ago, ended up leaving about $15 million to the local community college.
Wonderful.
So perception is not reality all the time. Then most times when I see people driving expensive things and living in nice houses, a lot of times they're broke or they have no margin.
Yeah, this isn't necessarily a concept directly from the Bible by any means, but if you're not feeling the urge to signal your wealth, it's a good sign that you're in a spiritually good place with money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so to wrap this up, the Bible teaches us that it's the love of money as the root of all kinds of evil, not money.
Yeah.
It's the love of money.
Not even enjoying money.
Right.
It's loving money.
That's right. Because you can't serve two masters, right?
No.
We're called to be stewards of God's financial provision. If we believe that God gives us everything, why do we struggle with it so much?
Well, we met with dozens of families this year, and this happens for us too. We're not trying to say that they struggle when we don't. We all struggle with this. People say things like, we make great money, but we can't keep up with our friends. And that's just so hard for us to hear. It's a common struggle. And I think that's why so much of the Bible and so much of Jesus' teaching helps us with that.
So 3 things that we think are good signals that you're doing well financially from a biblical perspective. You have an emergency fund, you have margin to give, and you don't signal your wealth.
That's right.
Folks, we'd love to hear your feedback or future show topics. We listen to people when you send us emails.
Yeah.
Send us a text, though, 254-282-0495, or visit us at spinlifewell.com. Until next time, folks, you've been listening to the Spin Life Well Show.